Honestly, guys, if you're a Bronco fan and you have even a very mediocre understanding of Denver Broncos history, there is no reason why you should be panicking about the state of this team sitting at 10 and 2 just because they're not really winning games or dominating bad teams like a lot of people think that they should, right? And shout out to Mario Vitanzi, man. Yesterday on Altitude Adjustment, he went solo for an hour. It was incredible. Definitely make sure you watch that video because I thought he did an unbelievable job explaining exactly what this video is going to be about. But this whole notion that the Broncos, they keep squeaking by and it's unsustainable and all that kind of stuff. I think at this point, guys, after winning nine in a row, is pretty weak of an argument. It shows that it actually is sustainable because they've won 9 games in a row. And just to break it down in other sports terms, let's look at hockey or basketball in an 82 game season. That would be like the Denver Nuggets winning 45 straight games. 45 straight games. Do you think anybody would care if the Nuggets won 45 straight games? If there was a couple that they barely won, they won on a buzzer beater, they beat bad teams, nobody would care. And so when you're looking at it from a per game standpoint, it's roughly the exact same thing. And the thing about it is the Broncos consistently are figuring out a way to win. And that's important. And they're doing it in different fashions, right? Different situations, different opponents, right? You look at, East Coast travel to Philadelphia, right? With the London game in the rear, they end up getting wins like that. I mean, that's a really unique, tiring type of circumstances. Then historical, right? Down 33 points in the fourth quarter, coming all the way back and winning that ball game, winning on a short night on Thursday, and then beating the Chiefs at home. Both teams basically that were in the Super Bowl, the Broncos were able to pull it off. They're just doing it in a multitude of ways. They've done it mainly with dominant defense, but they also did it this past week where the offense was kind of carrying its weight and giving them the lead and keeping them in the ball game, and then going out there and ultimately getting what was the game-winning drive before the defense made the final stop. So the complementary football is really starting to come along. And if you look at the history of all teams that win Super Bowls, not just the Broncos, you'll see a trend. These teams win tight ball games regardless of the opponent. And I was saying earlier in the video, you just got to have a very mediocre understanding of Broncos history to be able to very clearly see this. So let's dive into it, right? Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead, pop the screen share over here. All right. And we can do this all day, fellas. All day if you guys want to. Go ahead, zoom this up, make it a little bit bigger. I'm not even going to necessarily go to 2013 quite yet. Let's go to 2012 and look at the 2012 Broncos. And in my opinion, guys, this was the best team of all the Peyton Manning teams, right? But you can see, tight ball game, they lost. Tight ball game, they lost. They lost this one by 10, no problem. Otherwise, you're going through. This one was one of the crazy comeback wins. Otherwise, everything else for the most part was a blowout. They weren't really all that battle tested these years. They kind of just beat teams quite a bit. And then they end up getting battle tested in Baltimore, and they were unable to make the plays to be able to win the game in the postseason. Then you go to the 2013 season. You're talking about a historic offense. In basically every metric, this is the best offense in the history of the National Football League. And you can see how many games they won in a row, right? But all the tight games, 6-point game, they lost. Overtime game against New England, they lost. 1-point game against the Chargers late in the season, they lost. Everything else, blowout, blowout, blowout. This is a one-score game, but I think Kansas City ended up kind of scoring late to make it closer. 10-point win, 8-point win, blowout, blowout. Right, this one was a back and forth, but they weren't really tested. It was just like two offenses firing off, blowout. So my point is, this team wasn't very battle tested themselves. They would just be beating teams out. And when they were put in precarious situations, they wouldn't really know how to get out of it. And that shows up in the 43-8 thrashing that they got versus Seattle team that was not only very good that year, but very, very battle tested and very calloused, right? And then 2014 was just a mess in general. And then 2015, right? You can make the argument that this was probably, even though it was a historic defense, the worst Manning offense by far and away of his 4 years here in Denver. Obviously, we know because of the way that he was kind of deteriorating health-wise. But, man, you talk about a battle-tested team. Let's talk about it. One-score game win. One-score game win. One-score game win. It's a theme consistently all the time. Okay, suffered a couple L's here, no problem. But they found out a way to win even with a backup quarterback in a very unique circumstance, right? Figuring out ways to win. Here you go. Then the quarterback starts to, not really play well. We irk out, so a couple losses there. We irk out an overtime win, and then we're able to get a big victory that got us a number 1 seed here when Peyton Manning returned. So you'll see that, yes, they're not going to win every single one of them, but they were battle tested a lot more, and they figured out ways to win games in a multitude of ways so that when they got to the postseason, it wasn't even an issue. We would win all the close games before we ended up beating Carolina pretty handedly in the Super Bowl. My point is, I remember that season very vividly. And to be honest with you guys, I was, of course, a little bit worried about New England that year. I was always worried about Brady and New England when they'd come here. When we won that game, there was no doubt in my mind that we were going to beat Carolina because you just felt, even as a fan, you just had that belief that no chance. I don't care that Carolina's got the number 1 offense in the NFL. Not a chance they're scoring a lot on this Broncos defense. Not a chance. And it's exactly what it is that happened. And if us as fans had that belief, imagine how the guys in the locker room have it. So, you listen to former players, right? Guys like Aqib Talib, who have been fair in terms of their criticism. I don't think they're just looking at it through orange and blue lenses. I think that they're really just saying, based off of our experience, we know how it feels. We've won it in so many different ways that you end up getting confident that you're going to be able to pull through. And that's really where this Broncos team is, right? And that's not to say that we're without flaws. It's not to say that we're definitely going to win the Super Bowl. But when you start hearing all of these crazy sentiments about, this team is a fraud, or I can't wait to see the Broncos in the first round exit, blah, blah, blah. It's just crazy. And it just really shows the amount of hate that this team gets for whatever reason, right? And I get it. Like, you look at last year and all the close losses that Kansas City had. Even me as a Bronco fan, and somebody that openly, very, very openly hates Kansas City. When they were doing that last year, maybe early in the year, I was like, they don't seem as good this year. They don't seem as scary this year. And then when they just kept winning all those close games, you can go back and watch the videos of me talking about it. I was like, I don't really care how they're winning and who they're beating. They're just good. They figure out a way to win. That's what good teams do. And that is where the 2025 Denver Broncos are. So I'm excited, man, to see how the rest of the season, the final month and a week play out for this team. I really love the fact that they are going to be facing a tough opponents, a really tough stretch of games. If you look at it, obviously we have the Oakland Raiders this week, who they've had a really rough season to say the least, which has been a joy to watch. But again, they always play us tough, always, regardless if we're bad, if we're good, they're bad, they're good, whatever. It's still a opponent that it's going to be tough. I do think that this should be a game that we should win comfortably, but they've given us no reason to think that they will, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being a very close game. But then you got Green Bay and Jacksonville, two very good teams that have been very up and down, right? Kind of opposite in a way. Like Green Bay started really high, Jacksonville started a little bit colder, and then Jacksonville's really been on a good run, and Green Bay's kind of teetered up and down. Both teams very good, different styles, NFC opponents. Luckily, both of them are at home, but they're going to be tough games. And then you go to Kansas City on a Thursday night on Christmas Day, unfortunately, before you wrapping it up with the Chargers. So tough teams, tough opponents, good litmus tests for this Broncos team to continue rolling, to continue growing and get better at the areas that we need to get better at. And that's going to be the big thing. So shout out to Andrew Mason for this one, man. He had found it, but I loved this tweet because I didn't even realize this. But this is huge. This is big time, man. The Denver Broncos, a Broncos win on Sunday guarantees they win any two-way tiebreaker with New England. Denver could win the common opponent tiebreaker by defeating the Raiders, but because New England has completed interconference play, all of its remaining games are versus AFC foes. So the wonderful thing about this is that if you beat the Raiders this upcoming Sunday, Denver, you can match whatever it is that New England does, given that both of them are still going to be the top two seeds. and you're going to have the number 1 seed if you end up matching them. So it is very, very important. Does it mean everything? Does it mean that we're going to clinch the 1 seed? Absolutely not, man. So many things can change. Just in a matter of 2 weeks, the Indianapolis Colts went from the top seed in the AFC to now the number 6. So you never know. You just never know what's going to happen in this league. And the good thing is the Broncos are rolling. And another good thing is that the Broncos, well, I guess the good thing is that the Broncos have time before the playoff. And also a bad thing is that the Broncos kind of have time before the playoff, right? Because we're kind of rolling right now. But it's a week-by-week league. I think it's very important that as fans, we always look at it through that same lens that coaches and players do, because they truly do. They truly do. And then you can look at everything as a whole. That's always going to be the best way to look at it, right? I mean, nobody, and I think Mario made a really good point on his video yesterday, right? In the year that we won the Super Bowl in 2015, you think anybody was mentioning the overtime game that we went, against Cleveland, against a really, really bad Cleveland team? They ended up going to overtime and we barely won. You think anybody's mentioning the 5 interception game that Peyton Manning had? Oh my God, look how terrible we looked. Nobody cared at that point, because you got to look at the entirety of the season. Just like I was telling everybody, dude, it's week 3. We're 1-2. It's not panic time. Like, there's a lot of season left. This is not defining who we are. And here we are, over 2 months later, and we've knocked out 9 straight. So let's keep it into perspective. But, man, I really hope the national media continues to stay on us. I really do, because I like the underdog mentality. But it seems like this Broncos team is in a really good state of mind. They're just continuing to keep everything ahead of them, focusing on the next opponent. And I think that's what we should do. And that's what's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to have a full breakdown, talk about the game. Obviously, very familiar opponent. But what do the Broncos need to do to really improve in certain aspects? And what do I want to see? Which particular players do I particularly want to see? Not just get going for this game, but definitely for the rest of the regular season into the postseason. Because I tell you what, man. I tell you what, there's a couple guys. If even one of those two really start to take off, I think the Broncos are going to make a really nice deep postseason run. So stay tuned for that video. It'll be dropping maybe tomorrow, Friday at the latest, but I'm hoping to get it out tomorrow. I appreciate y'all, man. Go Broncos. And let me know in the comments what you think about this team overall and what are you looking forward to in this final stretch. All right, y'all. Peace.